in-upload ko sa YouTube yung recording ng iba kasi some of you are unable to access the recording, no? So I find it very tedious for me to always check on the Microsoft Stream kung sino yung mga students na wala, no? So yun YouTube ko na lang. Tsaka yun, parang mas madali, no? Okay, so let's begin with atoms, no? Okay, so before the conception of the modern idea or the modern concept of atom, no, let's go back muna sa kanyang basics, no. So beforehand, no, this was not on the slides, no. Before the conception of idea that's everything is created by something, and that something is called the atoms, no. It was first known, no, na lahat ng bagay, they're only made of four elements, no? The basis for the the ano, the anime ba siya? Yung the basis for Avatar, no? So yan, yung fire, air, water, and ano yun? Fire, earth, water, air. So yun. So yung apat na yun, yun yung iniisip nila na they were thinking that everything here on earth is composed of those four basic elements, no. So that was the idea presented by Aristotle, no, that everything is made of four elements, no. The fire is made of fire particles, the air is made of air particles, no. The earth earth or everything solid is made of earth, no. And water is made of water. Any liquids is made of water. No? So yun. Kasi before, no, they don't have complex objects naman, no, such as paper, no. Looking back at the Egyptian times, no. Egyptian times, yung buildings nila, they are made of clay, no. Gawa sila sa earth. Their tablets, no, hindi yung modern day tablet, ha. Yung tablets nila where they write their history or their inventories, no. Yung mga Rosetta Stones, no. Gawa rin yun sa earth. What else? The metals that they refine, no, gawa rin yun sa earth, no. So parang everything for them is gawa sa earth. Lahat ng objects na nahawakan mo, earth yan. Lahat ng fluids, they come from water, no. So for example, you drink water, you excrete that as urine, which is water pa rin naman daw, sabi nila. Okay, then everything that you can feel, it could be fire or air. So that's their concept before, no. Very simple concept for a very simple world, no. But over time, we knew that there is a need, no, to be rational about everything, no. Kasi parang ang dami naman, no. Gawa yung mga bagay sa iba't ibang bagay, no. Parang ganun, parang weird daw, no. Baka naman daw, sabi ni Democritus, baka there is a way, no, that we can find, no, the composition of everything na mas rational, no. So yun yung idea niya, no. So, si Aristotle kasi, this person was a politics person kasi to, si Aristotle, no, philosophy, politics. But Democritus, iba yung approach niya, no. He's more on trying to make logical sense sa lahat ng explanation. And then, yun, no. So, the first concept of the atoms talaga, no, came from Democritus, no. So, according to Democritus, no, if you divide something into infinite times, no, you will come up with a particle that you will not be able to cut, no. So hence the term atomos, no, because literally the definition for atomos in Greek is unable to cut or not to cut or uncuttable, no? For example, I have this piece of paper. So this piece of paper na pinapakita ko sa inyo, if I cut this into half, pwede pa. Okay, so this is not yet the smallest version. If I cut this again into another half, I can still cut this, di ba? And I can go on multiple times until such point that I will not be able to cut this, no? And hinati ko na siya sa kalahati ulit. I will cut this again into half. Now, as you can see, I'm struggling to cut this kasi lumiliit na siya, no? Okay. So, according to Democritus, ayun, masyado na siya maliit, pero kaya ko pa siya hatiin, no? So, according to Democritus, no, there will be a time in which when you are cutting the paper, no, you can no longer cut this, no, because it is very tiny to be cut, no. Kaya sabi niya, yung the smallest particle that can exist is the atomos or the uncuttable. Okay, and he proposed the idea that everything is made of these atomos, no? Lahat ng bagay sa Earth, no? And the universe, no? Although they don't have the idea about it yet, no? So yun. So everything on Earth is made of atomos, no? Everything that you can cut, no? You can partition into smaller volumes. You will come to a point that you cannot cut it anymore. Atomos, no? Okay. So, yun. The idea is widely accepted, no? During his time. And actually, it is very widely accepted in such point na tumagal siya ng millennia, no? 1,000 taon ang nakalipas bago siya ma-redefine, no? So, ganun ka-acceptable yung idea ni Democritus because number one, everyone can do it, no? So, if you want to do your own experiment, you can cut your papers at home. Oy, I can do this. And then that means Democritus is right, no? Because one characteristic of scientific method is the repeatability, no? You can do it always, no? And you will still end up with the same result, no? So that's the idea. So the idea of atomos is widely accepted even until now naman, no? Because future scientists, no, just develop the idea of Democritus, no? So let's proceed, no? So the first person to look back into Democritus theory is was pala was John Dalton, no? So John Dalton revisited the idea about atoms, no, in the 18th century, no. So yun. So imagine from 400 BC to 18th century. So ang laki ng gap, no. So okay, so this was the time that science is moving away from philosophy because dati kasi, no, philosophy covers everything, no. Kung mabasahin mo yung books ni Aristotle, may philosophy siya about politics, may philosophy siya about science, may philosophy siya about social behaviors, no? So, parang ang nangyayari kasi, philosophy kasing answer dati sa lahat ng questions. But, when science started, no, to develop its own name, to develop its own sphere of influence, no, nung bumubukod na yung science from the philosophy world, no, so, iba na yung approach niya in understanding different things, no? So, its approach is, instead of just rationalizing, for science, you have to rationalize and you have to do experiments, no? Experiment yung key thing why science is different from philosophy, no? Same idea, but science can prove, no, things empirically, meaning you can do it, no? So, yun something that is good with science, no? Okay, so as science progresses into its version today, no, so it needs experiment. So John Dalton revisited the theory or the idea presented by Democritus, no. So Democritus said that atoms are the tiny indivisible particles, diba? So John Dalton agreed with that, no. So yan. So according to John Dalton, in his first postulate in his atomic theory, that everything, all matter, these particles, no, are made up of tiny particles we call atoms, no. So yun. So itong first statement niya, this is just a revisit of the Democritus idea, no. So yan, inulit niya lang yung idea ng Democritus, but he applied experiments with this idea and came up with the other theories or the other postulates of his theory, no. So yun, so for number 2, according to John Dalton, all atoms of given element have the same chemical properties, no. And if they are not from the same element, then that means na they do not have the same properties. For example, you won't expect that, ano kayang element pwede? That hydrogen gas will conduct electricity compared to metals, no? Because these two are made of different elements, di ba? Hydrogen atoms behave differently compared to that of the metal. For example, iron, no? What else, no? Same for oxygen gas, kunwari. Oxygen molecules, they usually behave in gaseous form, di ba? Gaseous forms, no? Such as oxygen radical, oxygen molecule, or um, ozone molecule, no? So, yun yung idea. And comparing that with other elements atom, for example, gold, no? So gold, you won't expect that to be in gaseous state, no? So that means that all elements will behave differently if iba-iba sila ng elements, no? So that means atoms are different pa rin, no? In their composition, no? So may atoms for certain elements, no? Such as oxygen, gold, so on and so forth. Now, everything you can find in your periodic table, no? Those are different atoms that correspond to different chemical properties. They correspond to different elements, no? So, yan. So, the third postulate of Dalton is number 3. In ordinary chemical reactions, no atom of any element disappears or is changed from one atom to another, no? So yun. So the idea lang here is the law of conservation of mass, no? So he introduced the law of conservation of mass, no? So what is the law of conservation of mass? No? So law of conservation of mass just tells you that in a certain chemical reaction, the masses of your reactant will still be the same to that of your product, no? That means all atoms used up in chemical reaction are also still present in your product side, no? Kung ano yung atoms, kung ano yung dami ng atoms in your reactants, that is the same for your products. Walang mawawala, no? Walang susobra, no? That's why in the future, we will learn to balance chemical equations because of this postulate by John Dalton, no? So that is the law of conservation of mass, no? So yeah, that in chemical reactions, atoms are not destroyed. They're also not created. Instead, they only change their partners, no? For example, if I'm going to burn this paper, hindi nyo nakikita. Ito, if I'm going to burn this paper, what will happen is that the paper, no, yung carbon kasi ng paper dito, this is bonded to hydrogens, oxygens, no, so on and so forth. Pero if I burn this, what will happen is that the carbon will change its partner. Yung kanyang carbon partner, papalitan niya ng oxygen. Yung kanyang hydrogen partner, papalitan niya ng oxygen. Hence, forming the carbon dioxide gas, no? Or it can choose not to change the partner. Pwedeng wala na siyang gawing partner. So, maging pure carbon na lang siya. So, in result, this will become a char, no? And char yung hindi yung char na pag nag-uusap kayo. Char meaning yung uling, no? So, yun. It can char, no? So, yan. So, yun yung idea, no? So, it can partner with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, or it can partner with itself, no? Or with nothing para maging uling siya, no? So, that's the general idea, no? But, still remember, no, that wala namang nawawalang atoms. Wala rin na dadagdagan, no? Still the same number of atoms before and after the chemical reaction. Wala ba akong vid dyan? Nakita ko sarili ko sa akin eh. O yun. So anyway. Ayun. So, ewan ko. Nakita ko kasi sarili ko dito. But anyway. So that's the idea, no? Okay na po, sir. Sige. So ibig sabihin sayang pala yung effort ko ng pagpupunit ng papel kanina. But anyway, sana na-imagine nyo ako nagpupunit ng papel na. So, anyway, moving on. Okay. So, yung fourth and fifth postulate, no? Actually, originally 4 lang to, no? Pero ginawa kasi dito sa slide na to, pinaghiwalay niya. No? But, the numbers 4 and 5 are the same naman, no? So, number 4, or the fourth postulate of Dalton, states that compounds are formed by the combination of 2 or more different kinds of atoms, no? That means, if one atom combines with another atoms at certain proportions, that means they create a certain compound, no? If they combine at different proportions naman, they create another compound that is not similar to the previous one. For example, carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, no? So for carbon dioxide, the proportion of carbon to oxygen is 1 to 2. That means for every carbon, there is 2 oxygens, no? And that corresponds to just one compound with one behavior, no? Yung carbon dioxide, may sarili siyang behavior, may sarili din siyang formula, no? But for carbon monoxide, the ratio of oxygen to carbon is 1 to 1, no? 1 is to 1, no? Okay, so by just changing your proportion, what happens is that iba sila ng properties, no? This molecule is not the same as this one, no? Despite them having the same elements, but their numbers, kasi yung proportions nila magkaiba. So that means, magkaibang bagay ito, no? So, yan. So, yun yung idea. And we call this postulate number 4 the law of definite proportion, no? Ba't ganun? So, anyway, so yan. So, number 4 and 5, same lang yan, ha? Okay. So, yan. So, in law of definite proportion, according to Dalton's theory, is that your atoms combine, no, in certain ratios, no, to create a molecule, no. Different ratio results in different molecules, no. So, yan. So, yan yung idea. So again, let's summarize the idea, no? So we started with the idea of Democritus, wherein your particles or anything that you can find here on Earth, no, can be cut, no, to a point na very, very small na siya, no? So pwede mo siya hati-hatiin to a point na masyado na siya maliit for it to be cut, no? So yun, so you can no longer cut it, and the term for that is atomos, no, which is literally uncuttable, no? So yun yung idea ni Democritus, no? That was further enhanced by Dalton with his experiments, no? So what Dalton did is that he just expounded all the ideas about atoms, no? So sinabi niya, itong number 1, this is just a reinstatement of the Democritus idea. The second statement tells us that each atoms are different per element, no? So they started discovering different elements na kasi this time, no? Based on experiments, no? Then for number 3, it is just the law of conservation of mass that atoms are conserved, no? If you have 10 atoms on your reactant side, then on the product side, you will have 10 atoms, no? So this is the law of conservation of mass. The mass will never change, no, in a chemical reaction. Number 4, compounds form, no, in certain proportion. So that's the law of definite proportion or the law of multiple proportions, as some say, no? So yun. So different proportion, that means different molecules, no? Even though they have the same element, pero it is the number of elements that matter this time. Okay. So yan, so we started with Democritus, then Dalton, then what's next now? Okay, so let's start our future journey with J.J. Thomson. Okay, so J.J. Thomson, no, revisited Democritus. J.J. Thomson revisited Dalton's idea, no, mga theory ni Dalton, no. So what he did is that, ganito, no, pakita ko yung picture. Saan ba yan? Asan na yun? Ito. Okay. Okay, so ito yung ginawa ni J.J. Thomson. Bored siya. So, kumuha siya ng metal. For example, itong marker ko. Okay, so this marker is composed of metal atoms, no? Then, what he did is that he applied high voltage onto it, no? So, itong metal na to, kinuryente niya, no? Kinuryente niya. Then, what happened, no? So, ito yung actual experiment, no? So, ayan. So, on this side, ayan, yung nasa cursor natin, no? Itong part nito, ayan yung metal, no? Then, itong wires, ito, they create the circuit, no? Ayan. So, mataas yung voltage niyan. So, when he applied current to the metal, what happened is that may nag-beam from the metal itself. No? May tumalsik mula sa metal nung kinuryente siya, no? Paisip siya. Sabi niya, ibig sabihin, no, that yung atoms natin, they consist of much smaller particles, no? Ibig sabihin, may mas maliit pa sa atoms. Kasi nung kinuryente niya, may tumalsik sa kanya. Sabi niya, ano kaya yun, no? Napaisip siya, no? So, ginawa niya, sabi niya, no, lagyan ko kaya ng magnet, no? Pero syempre, ibang language yung gamit niya, no? So, ginawa niya, ayun, no? Hindi niya yung kamay, ha? Wala pang camera noon. Okay, so anyway, so this is the ray, no? We call this the cathode ray kasi nasa loob siya ng cathode tube, eh. Okay. Okay, so ginawa ni Thomson is that he used the magnet, no? And he tested kung ano kaya yung reaction ng particle na yan, o ano kaya yung reaction ng ray na yan towards this magnet, no? So this is the positive side of the magnet, no? So yan, itong white, no? Positive pole yan ng magnet. Then what happened to the ray, no? So as you can see, it is deflected towards the positive magnet. So napaisip siya. Itong particle from the atoms of the metal here, they get deflected towards this positive magnet. So what does that imply, no? So inisip niya no that siguro the reason why it is attracted towards the positive plate is that negative siya, no? So before they have the idea na kasi ng how magnets work, no? Na alam naman din natin, no, that a positive pole is attracted to a negative pole ng magnet, na if parehas kasi yan ng pole, for example, parehas ng positive, what will happen? They will repel, no? Pag parehas sila negative, they will also repel. But looking at this picture, sabi niya, yun, that this particle is attracted to the positive pole, hence it should be a positive. This ray, no? This ray is a negative particle. So yun yung keep in mind niya, no? But again, to test that, no? So hindi dapat tayo satisfied sa isang observation lang. So ginawa naman niya, he used the negative side of the magnet, this red, no? Tinutok niya dito sa ray, no? Then what happened is that, no? Ayun, nag-deflect, no? Nag-deflect away from the magnet yung ray. So, ano ba yung nagde-deflect, no? If parehas silang positive or parehas silang negative, no? This time, ito negative to. Then, this ray deflected from the negative magnet. So, that means parehas silang negative, no? That confirms the idea that this ray from your atoms here sa metal is negative in charge, no? Then later on, no, they coined the term electron for this one, no? So, yan. Originally, hindi siya electron, no? So, pero, yun, no? Nung binasa ko yan, no, sa books, no? Ang dami pang candidates niyan, eh. Ang dami pang candidate terms for that, no? Pero, they chose electron because, wala lang, no? Mas feel na yung term na electron. Tsaka may Greek may Greek equivalent na. May equivalence siya sa Greek language, no? So yun, so yung idea ni Thomson is that the atoms is not just this bunch of circles, no? Hindi lang siya bunch of spheres, no? Hindi lang siya bunch of indivisible particles, no? Kundi, it also contains smaller particles in it, no? So, yan. So, our atoms now according to J.J. Thomson, is that ito yung ating atom, no? It consists of tiny electrons found on the surface of it, no? So, in his mind, no, it looks like his plum pudding, no? So, ano yun? Para siyang cake na may raisins, no? So, inimagine na that electrons are just raisins na nasa ibabaw ng pastry, no? Then, kapag kinuryente mo daw yun, tumatalsik daw yung raisins or yung electrons tumatalsik from the atom, no? And that's actually quite good, no? Sige. So, good daw yung idea na yan because we just discovered that the smallest particle still consists of much smaller particle, no? Hence the term subatomic, no? So, before we only have atomic, no? Mga atoms, no? But this time, upon the discovery of electrons, we now know that there are particles much smaller than the atom itself, no? We call them the subatomic particles, no? This time, electrons muna, no? So, ayan. So, again, let's revisit what we just discussed. We started with atomos. John Dalton provided more theories or more postulates about atoms, no? Then J.J. Thomson, what he did is that he did the cathode ray tube experiment, no? Thus confirming that atoms still consist, no, of much smaller particles or the subatomic particles, which he called the electrons, no? And we know that electrons are negatively charged, diba? Okay. Then, ayan, no? Nag-modify na naman tayo ng atomic model because we are not satisfied with ano meron tayo na. And yun naman talaga dapat, no? Dapat hindi tayo nasa-satisfy sa mga simple bagay na nasa paligid natin. We want more answers, no? Okay, so then we proceed with Rutherford, no? So yan. So medyo lately lang to, early 19th century, no? Before the World Wars. No? So imagine yung nangyayari yung ganitong discovery nung lumalaban yung Pilipinas from the Spaniards, no? Parang weird lang, magkakaibang timeline, no? But anyway, so going to Rutherford model, no? So he did something similar with with the cathode ray tube experiment by J.J. Thomson. Pero this time, mas mayaman siya. In a sense na meron siyang radiation source, no? Asa na yan? Ito. So medyo similar yung ginawa niya, no? So si J.J. Thomson, he applied electricity onto the metal. Si Rutherford naman, he applied radioactive particles, no, on the metal, no. Lang, flex niya lang, no, na may radioactive source siya. But anyway, this is the setup, no. So the setup is this one. So on this part, on the left side of this is setup, may lead block tayo dito, no. So what's the purpose of lead block, no? Lead is actually good at containing radioactive particles, no. So yan. That's why nuclear reactors, no, they are composed of lead layers, no. Even yung spacecraft na Apollo, and the thing that went to the moon, no. So yan, yung Apollo spacecraft, that is actually covered in lead, no. So yan. Lead and other metals, no. That's why it looks like silver because lead looks like silver then, no. Okay, so yun. So may coating siya ng lead in order to protect the other areas, no? Para maprotektahan yung ibang area from the toxic or the dangerous radioactive particles, no? And what they know about the alpha particles is that the alpha particles are positively charged, no? So this particle is positively charged, no? And then in this lead block, there is a small orifice, no? Small na nga, orifice pa. May butas lang na maliit, no? What's the purpose of that hole or the orifice is that for the alpha particles to pass through that small hole, no? Para hindi siya kalat, hindi siya scattered. So, dun na siya tatagos, no? Then it will pass through a lead plate, no? Further concentrating the particles, no, in a certain region, certain um, space, no? So, yun. Then, ayun, eventually, it will hit the gold foil, no? So, mayaman talaga siya, no? Gold, eh. Okay, so yun. So, the alpha particles will travel from the lead block towards the gold foil. Okay, so if the atoms will follow J.J. Thomson's model, according to Rutherford's idea, dapat this ray, no, will only pass through a certain point. So that pagdating dito sa metal foil, kung siya ay nagpo-follow ng J.J. Thomson model, dapat isang dot lang yung makikita niya sa dulo, no? So that means nag-pass through lang siya dun sa atoms. But he discovered that that was not the case, no? So as alpha particles pass through the atoms of the gold, no? Okay, yung mga positive particles nag-pass through sa gold, what happened is that he noticed deflections, no? Deflections meaning may bumaliko na rays, no? Instead of just being straight particles, no, na napunta doon, may napunta dito sa side, may napunta doon, may bumalik pa nga, may nag-backfire pa daw, no? So, nagulat siya, no? Sabi niya, bakit, no? Ayun, so, then, later on, he rationalized on this, no? So, isip siya. So, sabi niya, tingin tayo dito sa isang slide. So, okay, dito yung image. Okay. So, ito yung rationalization ni Rutherford, no? According to Rutherford, if the atoms model, no, if the atoms will follow J.J. Thomson's model, dapat the alpha particle should only pass through it, no? Kasi yung positive side, yung positive center, siya ay nakakalat all throughout, no? So, walang masyadong repulsion, no? So, tatagos lang siya doon, no? But what happened is that, ganito, no? Itong nasa baba, no? What happened is that there is something that is positive in the center, na concentrated, na in which if an art and if an alpha particle hits it, what will happen is that it will cause deflections, no? Kunwari, ito yung alpha particle, tumama siya dyan, magde-deflect yung particle, no? May bumalik pa, may nag-bounce back. Pero if hindi siya tumama doon, it will just pass through, no? So that led to an idea that there is something concentrated inside an atom. Hindi siya ganito lang, no? Hindi siya malaking ganyan, no? Instead, may something daw that is concentrated at the center of the atom, no? And it is filled with void, no, where electrons can be found, no. So andito daw yung electrons, pero may something sa gitna, no. He called that center the nucleus, no. And since the nucleus repelled all the positive charges, that means it must be also positive in charge, no. Okay, so that means that the electrons here are negative, pero yung nasa gitna, that is positive, no. The nucleus is positive, no. So that's Rutherford rationalization. Hence this model. So ano meron dito sa model? You have your center here. This is the nucleus of your atom, no, which is positively charged, and the electrons are just swirling around the void between them, no. So yeah. So, familiar kayo dito? Some of my students call this the Jimmy Neutron model because, yeah, Jimmy Neutron's model is this one, sa logo niya. So, yeah. So, this is the nucleus, and these are the regions where you can find the electrons. No? Okay. So, this model is actually called the nuclear model. No? Why nuclear model? Because this model shows that there is a nucleus in an atom, no? As compared to J.J. Thomson's plum pudding model na the atom is a big particle with racemes of electrons in it, no? So, yan. So, yan. So, nagmula tayo dito from the plum pudding model and then we ended up with the nuclear model by Rutherford, no? So, that's the idea. So, etong nasa gitna, this nucleus, positive yan, no? And then the area around it is andun yung electrons. Okay? Then, later on, with further development ng science, no, mas marami na silang na-discover. No? Okay? So, Chadwick, no? So, sa Chadwick, ano ginawa niya? So, he revisited Rutherford's model, no? Kasi sabi ni Rutherford, there's something in the center of your atom, tong nucleus. May something daw dyan. So, what Chadwick, yung ginawa ni Chadwick, no, is that he investigated on the nucleus, no? So, in-x-ray niya yung nucleus, no? So, I don't know really how he did that, pero he did, no? So, according to textbook, no? And to some articles that I read last time, no? So, yun. He x-rayed the nucleus of an atom, no? And then he found out that in that nucleus, there are two distinct particles, no? So, yun. Those two distinct particles, no? One of them is positively charged and the other is neutral, no charge daw. Sabi niya, that means the nucleus is composed of two different particles. No? The positively charged particle is coined as the proton, no? And the neutral charged particles, no? He called it as neutrons. No? So Chadwick was actually credited for the discovery of neutrons sa protons, no? So for the protons, the credit was given to Rutherford, no? Because he was the one who is able to see that the nucleus is positively charged na, no? So yung positive charge na yon from proton yon, so sa kanya na lang binigay yung credit. Okay, but Chadwick claimed the credit for the discovery of neutrons, no? So now what we know about atoms is that they are composed of negatively charged particles, which we call electrons. And in its center, in the nucleus, it is composed of two different particles. No? The one being positively charged, which is the proton, and the other being neutral, which is the neutron. So yun yung mga ideas natin. No? Okay. So the discovery of neutron was actually quite new, no? I think before World War One, no? If not before, during World War One, no? So iba talaga nagagawa kapag walang internet, no? Marami kang discovery, no? So anyway, moving on, no? Okay, so this is actually the birth of a new field of science which we call the quantum mechanics, no? Which models everything in this universe with mathematical equations. No? So, very fascinating siya, yet mahirap. No? Pero we'll go on the surface level lang. No? Okay. Niels Bohr. So, si Niels Bohr, may problem siya. No? So, kunwari, if you are cooking at home, no? Kunwari, you have electric heater, especially sa mga nagdo-dorm dati, no? Before mag-pandemic. If you have an electric heater, yung electric coil doon, what will happen to it when it is heated, no? It turns into red, di ba? Same as for different metals, di ba? Kunwari yung alambre, no? Aluminum wire na yon, tinapat niya sa apoy, mamumula yun, di ba? Okay, so sabi niya, what is the reason why those atoms glow kaya, no? Bakit daw kaya sila lumiliwanag, no? Siguro, one good example would be fireworks, no? Because, yan, ano ba sa fireworks? Di ba pag yung fireworks pumutok, iba-iba yung colors, di ba? So sabi niya, ano kaya meron sa mga atoms na yon? Why they emit light, no? So, yan. So, Niels Bohr came up with an explanation about that, no? And he pertained to electrons naman this time, no? So, according to Niels Bohr, when you excite the electrons of an atom, when you say excitation of electrons, meaning ng nun, you provided energy. Pwedeng in the form of electricity, such as those in the electric stove, no? So, yun, pag kinuryente mo yung atoms doon, nag-glow siya. Diba? Nagiging red, no? Ganun din sa bulb natin, sa mga incandescent bulbs, no? Yung wire sa loob nun, di ba tinatamaan siya ng kuryente? It glows, no? So, ganun din yung idea dito ni Niels Bohr. So, if you provided energy for your atom, what happens is that your electrons are being excited. Then what will happen if they get excited, no? Pag kayo na-excite, anong ginagawa nyo? Siyempre, hindi kayo umiiyak, di ba? Kumantalon yung iba sa tuwa, no? So, electrons do the same, no? They jump, no? So, they jump from one level to another, no? So, for example, an electron jumps from here to there, and then it bounces back, no? So, tumatalon-talon yung electrons dyan, no? So, habang tumatalon-talon yung electrons, it oscillates, no? So, yan, tumatalbog-talbog siya. And that oscillation actually produces light, no? Because remember, light is just an oscillation in the electromagnetic spectrum, no? It is just an oscillation in that spectrum, no? Pag nag-oscillate yung bagay, it produces light, no? Ito hindi nyo magagawa, no? Kasi hindi naman talaga siya possible, no? Kunwari, you have your string of guitar. Diba? It produces sound when you strum it, diba? May guitar ka, strum mo yan. Nagpo-produce siya ng sound. Why? Because of the oscillation. But if the oscillation is fast enough, no? Which is impossible for the guitar, no? Pag nag-oscillate yun na mabilis, magliliwanag yung string mo. That's the idea, no? So if electrons oscillates now very fast now, it will produce light now. So according to Niels Bohr, that phenomena can be explained when electrons jump from one energy level to another, they produce light now. Okay, hence this model now. So itong circles na to, the further you go out from the center of your atom, which is the nucleus now, the further you go out, the higher the energy level is now. So this is the first energy level, which contains 2 electrons. The second energy level, which contains 8 electrons. The third energy level, which contains 2 plus 6 plus 10, 18 electrons. The fourth energy level contains so on and so forth number of electrons. You might be familiar with this because ginagawa nyo to noong junior high school, no? Okay. Pero hindi na natin babalikan yan, no? Medyo masalimuot yan eh. Okay, so yun lang. So yan, so for every energy level, there's an electron that you can find here, no? And they can be excited, no? So as they get excited, they produce light. And that actually started the idea of quantum mechanics, no? So thanks to Niels Bohr for making life complicated, but explainable naman, no? So kaya naman ma-explain kahit complicated, no? So, yan. Then, yun nga, naging complicated na nga yung mga bagay-bagay. Then, that led to the quantum mechanical model of an atom na. Okay. So, imagine we started from this now. We get this na. So, what is the quantum mechanical model naman? No? So, that is actually a product of Niels Bohr's idea. No? So, idea siya ni Niels Bohr. Siya yung produkto or siya yung anak ng idea niya. No? So, certain scientists work on this, no? Especially physicists, no? So, sino-sino sila? Si De Broglie, Louis De Broglie, Erwin Schrödinger, no? And friends, no? So, hindi ko nakalala yung iba, no? Pero marami sila. Okay? So, what they did is that they modeled the atom in equations, which we call the wave functions, no? So, yun. So, minodel nila yung everything into mathematical equations. And then when you do statistics on the equation, no, kunwari, you get the integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of that equation, you come up with this shape, no? So basically, para lang siyang bell curve, pero for atoms, no? Di ba yung mga statistics stuff nyo, may bell curve? Wherein at if in the highest peak of your bell curve, you can find your data. Dito sa quantum mechanical model, this region, no, itong mga shape na yan, that corresponds where the electrons can be found. No? So, medyo statistical yung approach ng quantum mechanical model. No? Hence the term statistical mechanics. No? So, yun. So, yun lang yung idea. No? So, they do mathematical modeling ng atom. They define the atoms based on their wave functions, no, or their equations. Then, yan. we came up with different shape for different atomic orbitals, no? Which I will show you here, no? So, ano-ano yung mga shape ng atomic orbitals natin? Hindi dyan, dito. Okay, so we started with this idea from Niels Bohr, no? That electrons jump from one energy level to another. Then, ito pala, sina Heisenberg, Louis de Broglie, and Erwin Schrödinger. No? Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle, I know, alam nyo yan. No? So yun, so they do statistical mechanics, then they came up with equations describing the shape of atoms. No? So the shape of orbitals of atoms, no, are the following. No? We have the S, spherical, P, the dumbbell, the D, which is clover leaf. Itong isang nasa dulo, tawag ko dyan, donut na may hotdog, no? Ito yung donut, yung pabilog dyan, tapos yung hotdog, ayun na. Kasi siya lang yung weird, eh. The rest are clover leaf din siya, donut na may hotdog, no? And then F orbital, I can no longer describe the shape because it's complicated, no? Ayan, no? Ang weird, no? So, ayan. So, these shapes, no? Itong mga shape na yan, those are products of the quantum mechanics, no? Or the statistical mechanics, no? So, that shape describes where the electron can be found, no? So, hindi na siya nakikita in orbits. Rather, we can see the electrons in shapes, no? Pwedeng pabilog, pwedeng dumbbell, pwedeng cloverleaf, o kaya donut na may hotdog, or complicated shapes, no? Which I can no longer describe. So that's the progression, no? We started with an idea of atom being indivisible particles. Dalton improved the idea presented by Democritus, no? So he gave postulates, no, about the behavior of atoms, no? So we have the four postulates, no? Ayan yung mga yan. Then Thomson revisited the model, no? And then he found out na may electrons, no, sa ating atoms. Rutherford naman also focused on the model itself, no? So according to Rutherford, instead of being a big positive charge particle, no, ang atom daw ay may tiny concentrated positive part, no, sa nucleus, and then the electrons are just around it, no, revolving around it, no. The idea was further discovered by or revisited by Chadwick, no, in which yung nucleus daw, he found out that it's composed of neutrons and protons, no. Neutrons being neutral charged particles and protons being the positively charged particles. Then Niels Bohr approach is about, again, the atomic orbitals. I mean the shape of the atoms. No? So the previous models kasi failed to describe certain phenomena such as why atoms emit certain wavelength of light, diba? So yan. So he used this orbital model, the planetary model, no? Planetary model tawag dito, to describe that each electrons contain different energies, and if they jump from one energy level to another, they emit light, no? Actually, share ko lang, no? Yung X-ray nyo, di ba pag nagpapa-X-ray kayo, medical, no? Ang ginagawa lang dun sa X-ray is that the atoms, no, present in the X-ray machine, they're being excited by electricity. Kaya mataas yung voltage doon, nakalagay doon, di ba? Warning, high voltage, di ba? So, yung ginagawa lang sa X-ray machine is that kinukuryente lang yung bakal. And pag kinuryente mo yung bakal, what will happen is that the electrons in an atom will be excited, no? But instead of emitting light, no, what happens is that they get so excited that the electrons actually escapes the atom. And pag nag-escape yon, that is actually called the X-ray na. No? So yun, share ko lang. And then in the future, we discovered that we can describe the atom based on mathematical equations, no, that describe the shape of atoms depending on the position of your electrons, such as the clouds, no. For example, sabi natin, there are water molecules in the air, no. Yes, totoo yan. But where can you find them? No? Saan mo sila makikita? Tingin ka lang sa langit, makikita mo yung clouds. No? So in that clouds, you will most probably find the water vapors. Same for atoms, no? Itong mga clouds na yan, yung mga shape na yan, andyan yung electrons. No? So sa regions na wala dyan, meron pa rin electrons yan, pero onti lang. No? So dun sila sa cloud. Okay? So this is the modern view of an atom na no. Although this is not the true model, no, because this is Rutherford's model, no. Pero this is simple enough, no, to see that ano, the atom consists of nucleus and the electrons are revolving around it, no. So for the nucleus, we have neutrons, which is neutral in charge, and the protons na positive in charge, no. Okay. The mass of your atom is concentrated in the nucleus, no? Okay, so the mass of your atom, no, that just corresponds to the number of protons and neutrons that you have, no? Hence the equation for atomic mass being proton plus neutron. Why? Kasi yung electron natin, this is very tiny, no? Very tiny to be measured, no? Ito yung kanyang mass, oh. So for protons and neutrons, they are similar, 1.6726 times 10 raised to negative 24. But for electrons, look, oh, it's negative 28, a very, very small number, no? So you can just neglect that, no? So pwede mo na lang kalimutan yung contribution ni electron, no? Okay, so the mass of your atom is just the sum of the number of protons and neutrons that you have, no? So ayan. Okay, so what else? Now, we can also describe the atom based on its atomic number. Okay, so atomic number is just the number of protons, no? And each atoms, no, contain different numbers of protons, no? The protons for hydrogen differs to that of the helium, and that also differs to the protons of lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, chlorine, neon, so on and so forth. No? So magkakaiba sila ng number of protons. No? And the atomic number, no, that corresponds to number of protons. For example, I have magnesium. So magnesium in my periodic table, ang kanyang atomic number is 12. So that means it has 12 protons. No? For example, I have the bohrium, element 106. So it contains 106 protons. No? So yun lang yung idea. Lastly, we can describe the atom based on its atomic charge. No? So atomic charge is just the difference between protons and electrons. No? If the number of protons and electrons are the same, then your atom is 0 in charge. No? That means it is neutral. If you have more protons than electrons, your atom will be positively charged. No? Kunwari, nagtanggal ka ng electron dito. Kunwari, tinanggal ko yan. No? So there will be less electrons than protons na. So proton is a big number. Electron is a small number now. So subtracting small number from big number will give you a positive result, diba? So positive yung charge ng atom. Paano naman kapag maraming electron? So if you added electrons on your atom, what will happen is that the electron number will increase, no? So tataas tong number of electrons. As a result, yung dami ng electron, magiging big number siya. Yung proton, small number na lang. So small number minus big number, that gives you a negative value for the charge. No? So whenever your atom is positively charged, no, we call that the cation. And if it is negative in charge, no, pag negatively charged siya, we call that the anion. No? So yun. So what else? No? We can write, no? We can show the atom based on its nuclear notation, no? Pwede natin isulat yung atom in its own notation. So, paano yung nuclear notation, no? For example, ano kaya pwede? Lithium 3, 7, positive 1, no? Or plus lang. Okay, so what I have here is a nuclear notation for lithium, no? So, it consists of three different numbers. Ano yung three different numbers na yon? Number sa bottom left, number sa top left, and number sa top right, no? Okay. So, each numbers correspond to a certain property of an atom. The number at the bottom left tells you about the atomic number. So, looking at lithium, how many protons does it contain, or what is its atomic number? Edi 3, di ba? The number on the top left naman is the atomic mass. Okay. So, atomic mass, that corresponds to the sum of the protons and neutrons. No? So, for this time, the atomic mass is 7. No? So, if lithium contains 3 protons, how many neutrons does it contain? No? How many neutrons kaya siya? So, all you have to do is to get the difference of 7 and 3. No? Then, the mass minus the protons to get the neutrons. So, that's 4. Okay, so that means lithium atom consists of 3 protons and 4 neutrons, giving us the mass of 7. No? The mass number 7. The number here on the top right tells you about the atomic charge. No? Okay, so whenever the atom is positively charged, that means it loses electron. No? If it is positive 1, it is the number of electron is 1 less than the number of the protons. No? If this is positive 3, that means the number of electrons is the number of electrons is 3 is the number of proton minus 3. Ganun na. Wala ako. So, yun yung idea. Pero if ever this is negative in charge, no, or negative 1, that means there is an excess of electron. No? By how much? By the number itself. No? So, negative number, that means you have added the electrons. No? By how much? By a certain number. Pare, negative 1 yan. So, that means you added 1 electron, no, to your atom. Example, positive 3 yan. No? That means you lost 3 electrons. No? So, ganun lang yung idea. If that is neutral, then we're not going to write any numbers in there. No? So, blank lang yan. No? Pwede ring 0, pwede ring blank. No? So, that's the idea. Okay? So, that's the nuclear model of your atom, or the nuclear notation of your atom. Again, this is the atomic symbol, itong letter dyan. And you can find that on your periodic table. Atomic number on the bottom left corresponds to proton. Atomic mass, that corresponds to the sum of proton and neutron. And the charge here, it corresponds to the difference of protons and electrons. Okay? So, do you have any questions? Or okay pa naman, naalala nyo pa yung ganitong discussion? Okay, so with that, na, siguro we can start answering some items in your worksheet. Na. So magsagot lang tayo. Tingin tayo dito. Ay, antok tayo na ka. So yan, laboratory number 1. Let's fill out this table. So on this table, we have the nuclear symbols in here. This is the charge of your atom. This is the proton, the neutron, and the electron. So we're going to fill this table now with appropriate values that correspond to a certain element that we are pertaining to. Okay, so I'll start with number 1. No? So mamaya kayo naman yung magsasagot. No? Magre-recite kayo. And so we have 8 items to answer. I'll begin with number 1. So number 1, I have a proton of 9. So that corresponds to atomic number of 9. So what I'm going to do, I'll check the periodic table. What is the element number 9? And that's fluorine. So the symbol is F. Okay, so I will just copy the protons. I will write it on the bottom left. Then ano pa? For the atomic mass na nandito sa taas, on the top left, I will just add the protons and the neutrons. So that's 9 plus 10, that is 19. Okay? Since I don't have any charges here, so wala na akong ilalagay dyan. No? Pag 0, wag na maglagay. Pero pag positive or negative, then you have to add values on the top right. Okay. So ano pa? Number of electrons. Remember that atomic charge is the difference of your proton and electron. If the difference is 0, the charge is 0, that means the number of protons is the same as the number of electrons. No? So dapat 9 din to. No? Okay, so I just filled out the first row. Nuclear symbol, 19, 9F. So wala ko nilagay doon. Charge is 0, proton is 9, neutron is 10, electron is 9. No? Okay, so I'll answer second row. No? Sige, tas kayo na bahala sa iba. So for the second row, I have question mark here, no, for your atomic number. Ayan, question mark. So di ko alam daw, no. So, but you are given the atomic symbol, no. So I'm just going to look kung ano yung atomic number ni phosphorus, and that's 15. So I'll just write 15 dyan, no. So 15 yung phosphorus, no. So that means the number of protons is also 15, no. And to verify if tama yung protons natin, if we add protons and neutrons, that should give us 31. So 15 and 16 will really give you 31 na. Okay, then what's left? Electrons. Since the charge is 0, that means the number of electrons is the same as the number of protons. So that's also 15. No? Okay. So I will write the equations, no, for you to be guided. No? So protons, this is equivalent to atomic number. Atomic mass, this is proton plus neutron. Atomic charge, this is proton minus electron. And the nuclear notation is X, number, mass, charge. No? Where X is your atomic symbol that you can find in your periodic table. No? So your task now is to fill out the table, no? Numbers 3 to 8. Okay? So mamaya may magre-raise ng kamay dito sa ating teams. Then you will give me the answers. So I'll give you siguro around 10 minutes, no, to fill out this table. And also work with number 2, no. Itong number 2. How many neutrons are there in ganyan. So you can take a screenshot, no. So I'll give you 10 minutes to fill out the table and answer number 2. Sige. Okay, so feel ko yung naka-answer na yung iba, no? Okay, so please raise your hand na lang, no? May option naman dito sa Teams to raise your hand if you want to recite, no? So let's start with number 3. Okay, who wants to answer number 3? Raise your hand na lang. Okay, so Joshua, use your mic, no? Pag sasabihin ang answer. Sige. Joshua, ilan yung electrons?
24 po.
Ilan po?
24.
20?
24 po.
24. Okay. So why 24?
Kasi po number of electrons.
Ano pa?
Yung number of proton po kasi is 27, then yung charge is positive 3. So ibig sabihin po, may natira pong 3 dun sa number of proton. Kaya po yung sagot sa electron is 24.
Ayun, so true, no? So tama naman, no? So, how about the nuclear symbol? What is the element symbol first?
Cobalt po.
Cobalt, CO. Then, number sa bottom left?
27.
27. Top left.
57.
And top right?
Positive 3 po.
Ayun, positive 3. So, yan. So, tama yan, no? Okay, so thank you, Joshua. Who else would like to help me? Okay, so thank you, Joshua. Okay, si Emmanuel. Sige, so Emmanuel, charge.
Charge po is negative 2 po.
Negative
2 po.
because
Ano po? 16 minus 18. Proton
16
minus
minus
electron.
18. Okay, so yun. 16 minus 18, negative 2. Now, how about the nuclear symbol?
Sulfur.
Element symbol.
S po, sulfur.
S, sulfur. Bottom left.
16 po.
Top left.
32.
And top right.
Negative 2 po.
Okay, so yan. So very good, no? So thank you, Emmanuel. Number 5. Who wants to help me? Si John Zyrene. Sige. Tapos next si Al Hussein. Sige.
Yung proton po is 35.
Proton is 35. Neutron
Then
is 40.
44.
44. And electron
Then
is
35 po, since 0 yung charge.
okay. So yan. So very good na. So thank you, Zyrene. John Zyrene. Ayan, si Al Hussein, no? Number 6. Electrons.
Number of electrons are 10
10. Because
po dun sa yung charge po is negative 3, so mas mataas po yung electron.
mas mataas siya by 3. So 7. So dapat 10. So yan. So good. How about the nuclear symbol? What is the atomic symbol first?
Atomic symbol is nitrogen.
And bottom left.
7.
Top left.
14.
Charge. Negative 3. Yeah. So thank you. Al Hussein. Number 7. Si Emmanuel magre-recite ulit. Ay, nagbaba na siya.
Sige po.
Ay, hindi. Sige. Sige,
Pwede
number
po ba?
7.
Charge.
Sige, 7.
7 po. Ano po? Electron po is number of electrons. 28 po.
28 kasi
28. Positive 5 po yung charge. So, proton minus po yung 5. Minus 5 kayo po.
So, tama naman. Then, nuclear symbol. Atomic
AS po,
symbol.
arsenic.
ES.
Arsenic po, AS.
Bottom left.
30 po.
Top left.
75.
And
positive.
top right.
Positive 5.
Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you po.
Last number. Para tayong no? Para tayong nagsusugal dito. Last number 8 na. Maricon. Nakita ko yung Maricon.
Yung ano po,
Ayun. Sige, charge.
yung charge po is positive 4,
Yes. Then, proton
40 po,
and neutron.
50,
Tapos, electrons.
37 po.
Hmm?
37, ay, 36 po, sorry, 36.
36. Ayun, so, ayan. Very good, no? Okay, so, yan, so, I'm very glad naman na nasagutan natin lahat, no? So, you can take a screenshot for your reference dito sa ating answers, no? Okay, so, screenshot nyo siya for your reference, no? Sige. Okay, so, feeling ko na-screenshot nyo na. Let's proceed with number 2. Okay, so ito, neutrons ang usapan. How many neutrons are there in a carbon atom of mass number 13? Now, anyone? Raise na lang ng hand. Si Al Hussein.
6 po, sir.
6 neutrons.
Yes.
Final answer?
Yes po. Ay, tama po. Ay, 7 po pala.
Ayun, 7, no? Because the mass number is 13, di ba?
Yes.
That's proton plus neutron, dapat 13. Carbon is the 6th element. Okay? So, kailangan mag-add ka ng 7 para maging 13. Okay? So, thank you. Thank you, Ali Hussein. So, lagay ko lang dito. Neutron equals 7. How about letter B? Si Laris, Jen, Tadilio. Okay, so ilang neutrons meron dito, Laris? Ha?
41 po.
41 neutrons because
Kasi po, atomic number po ng germanium is 32.
and
And then you have to subtract 73 minus 32.
ayun, so 41. So thank you, Laris. So next natin si Emmanuel ulit. Sige. Letter C. May best in recitation pa pala dito, no? Sige. Ilan po sa letter C?
Yung neutron po is 112 po.
Ilan?
112 po.
112, no?
Okay.
Kasi
po yung atomic number po ng osmium is 76.
and yung mass number is 188. Then, ano gagawin natin doon?
Ima-minus lang po.
Okay, so that's 188 minus,
Minus
76.
76.
112. Ayun, so very good. And last one, letter D. Last one, letter D. Sige, si ano na lang. Mini. Sabihin niyo kung stop pa. 1, 2, 3. Ayan, si Maricon. Si Maricon. Letter D.
Yung 117
100.
atomic number niya is 78 po.
Atomic number is 70.
Wala.
Tama naman, 78 yung atomic number. And then the number of neutrons is 100. Sabi ni Maricon, 117 daw. Wala si Maricon. So anyway, so that's all the answer for numbers 1 and 2 of our activity. No? So you can take a screenshot of this for your future reference. And then, yung next part natin would be more on math, no? So, chill lang muna, no? Kasi magma-math tayo. Sige. So, do you have any questions? You can raise them, no? You can raise your questions while I speak here. Okay, so anyway, we will proceed with the last part of our two-part meeting. No? Today kasi we're going to discuss this atom nga. No? On next meeting, we will discuss electron configuration. But very, very small lang. No? Mabilis na usapan lang. Okay. The purpose is para tayo makakain ng tanghalian agad. No? So let's wrap this up. No? Isotopes. No? Looking at your periodic table, tingin ako sa periodic table ko. Saan yun? Ito. Ayan, periodic table. Tignan natin ha. Di ba sabi natin that mass number is proton plus neutron. So dapat there should be an idea na, dapat full number to, di ba? Or tignan nyo, hydrogen 1008, helium 4003, carbon 12.011, copper, daming decimal places, di ba? Ang daming number, oh. By the way, yung mga may square bracket, no? Estimated lang yan because these elements exist very quickly lang. They die after some time. No? So, yan. So, hindi nila na-measure na maigi. Estimate lang yan. But looking at the other elements, no? Ang daming decimal point. So, bakit? No? Kasi ganito. In reality, there are a bunch of different types of elements, pero same element sila. Kumbaga, maraming version yung isang element, no? And we call them the isotopes, no? So, what are the isotopes? Isotopes are atoms of the same element, but they differ in their mass number, or they differ in the number of neutrons, no? So, let's take a look at carbon. So, looking at carbon 12, so my proton siya na 6, no? That's fixed. But the neutron is 6, no? So, 666. Ay, demonyo pala to, no? So, yan. So, itong 6 and 6 from protons and neutrons that correspond to a mass number of 12, di ba? Pero, there is another version of carbon in which the neutrons is 7, no? Hence, the mass number is changed as well. And another version which we use to carbon date our material to determine kung kailan siya nag-exist, carbon 14 yung gamit, no? So, nagbago yung neutrons niya from 6 to 8 and we have a mass number of 14. Okay, so the question that we have there is, if there are different bunch, there's bunch of different atoms, diba? How are we going to write them on the periodic table, no? Paisip sila, paano nga ba? Kasi there's almost 1,000 types of atoms kasi that exist, no? Na isotopes pala nag-exist, no? So hindi naman pwede ilagay yun sa periodic table lahat, no? So what they do instead is that the masses that they report in the periodic table, yung masses na yan, that is just the average, no? The average masses of all the isotopes that we have here, no? And what else, no? The presence of isotopes in Earth, no? Iba-ibang percentages yan. For example, most of the time we will see carbon 12 because this is the most abundant element. But there are also traces of carbon 13 and carbon 14. That means, yung dami ng carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14, so iba-iba sila in nature, no? Okay, so para rin yung grade ninyo, no? So, yung grade nyo, for example, kunwari sa Gen Inorg, yung Inorg Chem, kunwari, 4 kayo, di ba? Sana, 4, no? Tapos, pagdating sa ANAFI, kunwari, 3, no? So, ganun. So, pwedeng gawin natin, we get the average of those stuff, no? But, we have to consider also that iba-iba yung units nila, di ba? For example, ito, 4 units. Siguro yung ANAFI nyo, 3 units, no? Or 5 units. Okay, so ano gagawin natin? So, we have to account for their abundance or their percentages, no? Based on the units. Ganon din sa isotopes, no? So, in order to get the average, we get the weighted average instead, no? And tayo mag-stop, no? Sinabing weighted average, you multiply your mass by the abundance, you multiply your grade by the units, and you divide it by the total units, di ba? Okay. So in chemistry, medyo similar din naman. So the weighted average mass, no, AM na lang, that is the sum of the fractional abundance times the isotope masses, no. So yun, sabi ko nga, each isotopes have different fractional abundances, and they also have different isotope masses, no. So all you have to do is just to multiply this, and you add all the products, no, from your given isotopes. Then you come up with a number that can be found in your periodic table. No? The reason why carbon 12 is 12.011 in your periodic table is because iba kasi yung percentage nito sa dito at sa dito. So yun yung meaning natin dyan. No? So as you can see, medyo may math tayo. So if you want to eat nabang nagmamath, okay lang, no? Ayun, so kain muna yung iba habang nagre-record. Pero yun, tuloy-tuloy na ako sa pag-discuss na. So sige, lunchtime yun na rin naman eh. Sige. So I will proceed answering number 3. Okay. Itong number 3 medyo mahirap kaysa sa ipapagawa ko sa inyo, no? Para masaya yung buhay. But anyway, let's proceed, no? So magnesium, the average atomic mass of magnesium is 24.305. It consists of 3 isotopes with masses 23.9850 atomic mass units, 24.9858 atomic mass units, and 25.9826 atomic mass units. The abundance of the middle isotope is 10%. Estimate the abundances of the other isotopes. Okay. Siguro maganda yung maraming questions eh. Sir, paano kaya nila nakuha yung abundances, no? Paano nila nalaman na yung isa 10%, yung isa ganitong percent? So the answer that there is that we use spectrometers, mass spectrometers, no? What does that instrument do, no? So ginagawa ng instrument na yon is that you have your isotopes, no? Then ina-identify niya yung masses ng each isotope na yon. And it also measures the abundance of that isotope in your given sample. Kunwari may isang uling ako, isang gramong uling. So alamin niya, ilan dito yung carbon 12, ilan yung carbon 13, ilan yung carbon 14, ilan yung carbon 11, no? So pinapakita niya yun as a graph, no? So makikita natin yung graph ng percentage abundance and the isotope mass, no? So that instrument is also used in drug testing. No? Remember, yung molecule ng nicotine, yung drugs present in yung nicotine pala sa sigarilyo, no? Methamphetamine, no? So yun yung nakikita sa shabu, no? For example. So may corresponding mass yon. So ginagawa, pag kayo nag-test kayo ng drugs, no? Gagamit kayo ng mass spectrometer. So you will pass through your sample, pwedeng dugo, pwedeng ihe, no? So yan. So papass through siya sa gas chromatography and then sa mass spectrometer. So pagdating sa mass spectrometer, it will makita niya yung atomic mass ng molecule mo, no? Or the molecular mass, no? If kunwari may na-detect siya at this atomic mass or molecular mass, kunwari that's 100, kunwari lang 100. Ibig sabihin nun, may present na ganitong sample sa iyong material, no? So yun, so ibig sabihin positive, no? Pwede pag wala, edi negative, no? So ganun yung testing in the future. So yun. So anyway, I will proceed answering this, no? So anong given sa akin? This is the average atomic mass units, no? Binigay na eh. Yun, usually katabi yun ng element, no? So the average atomic mass, no, or the AM na lang is 24.305 atomic mass units or AMU or AMU. Okay, then I have 3 isotopes now. I will label them as A, B, C. Isotope mass, fractional abundance. No? Sabi ng iba, abundance. Boy abundance. Ayun ako. Sige. Okay. So for the first isotope, my mass would be 23. 23.9850. Then yung second isotope ko would have a mass of 24.9858, and the third one would be 25.9826. Fractional abundance. So sabi dito, the abundance of middle isotope is 10%. No? So yung nasa gitna ay 10%. Estimate the abundance of the other isotopes. Naku po. GG, no? Hanapin natin ito. Hanapin natin iyan pati ito. Okay. So, syempre, hindi pwede yung 100% minus 10% equals 90%. Tapos, since dalawa yan, divided by 2, edi 45% sila each, no? No, hindi pwede yan because iba-iba yung abundances eh. Iba-iba yung fractional abundances. So, we cannot just simply assume that they are the same, di ba? So, we really have to do some mathematical operations here, no? Okay, so anyway, I will proceed, no? So, I'm going to look for the 2, no? I will label this as X, then I will label this as Y, no? Okay. Okay, so in order for me to answer this, I'm going to write an equation for atomic mass, no? Am. So atomic mass, sabi natin, that is the sum of the fractional abundance times the isotope mass, no? In our case, we have 3 isotopes. So, tatlo yung terms natin na ganyan, di ba? Okay, so gagawin lang natin yan. Am is equals the fractional abundance of A times the isotope mass of A plus the fractional abundance of B times the isotope mass of B plus, sige, lagyan natin parenthesis, plus the fractional abundance of C times the isotope mass of isotope C. So, yun yung meaning ng sum of the products, no? So, you will write the products, ayan, then you will add them all together. Sige. Then, ano yung alam natin? Ang fractional abundance ni A ay X. Ang isotope mass ni A ay 23.9850. Fractional abundance ni B ay 10%, or I will write it as decimals na lang, no? 0.1. Isotope mass of B is 24.9858, no? 24.9858. Fractional abundance of C, I don't know, so ayan. And the isotope mass of C is 25.9826, no? And the average mass, no, which was reported earlier to be 24.305. Then, what's next? I'm going to plug in all my information. So, plug in ko lahat ng numbers. No? So, I will have 24.305 equals 23.9850x. Okay, so ganun yung gagawin, ha? Plus, what's 0.1 times 249858? So, you just move the decimal point, di ba? So, ano yan? So, magiging 2.49858 lang yan. Plus, 25.9826y. Okay, so looking at the equation, ano yung mapapansin natin? We have 2 unknowns. Ano yung unknowns natin? So, we have the x unknown and the y unknown. As I told you last time, no, last week, sabi ko sa inyo na if you have 2 unknowns but 1 equation, you cannot solve this. So, ibig sabihin ba na hindi na natin ito pwedeng ma-solve? No? Not really, no? Okay. Pero yung idea, no? So, if you have 2 unknowns in 1 equation, dapat may tutulong sa problem na yan, no? May isa pang equation na pwede natin gamitin in order to answer that problem. Okay. So, the question is, ano kaya, no? Okay. So para malaman natin kung ano yung equation na yon, balik tayo dito sa ating table. Okay. Looking at the fractional abundances, no? Ay, ba't ko binara? Looking at the fractional abundances, ano yung sum ng fractions? When we add the fractional abundances, parang nag-a-add lang tayo ng fraction ng pizza, naman. So if you have 8 pizzas, no? Pag pinag-add mo yan lahat, no? Isang buo yan, na. If 8 slices of pizza is equal to 1 pizza, kunwari, no? So that means, pag pinag-add natin ito, at ito, that should correspond to 100%, no? So that means the fractional abundance of A, B, and C should be equal to 100%, no? So A, I don't know, so X yan. B, that's 10%, no? And yung C, I don't know, so Y yan, diba? Then ano gagawin ko? I will transpose 10% to the other side of the equation, giving me 100% minus 10% equals X plus Y. Okay. Then what's 100 minus 10? Edi 90%. Okay, so yan, no? Okay, so looking at this, no? We have an equation that we can use, no? We can use this, no? To substitute one of the unknown variables. So we can substitute X with this equation. We can substitute Y with this equation as well, no? So, kunwari, gusto ko yung Y, I want to substitute Y in terms of the values for X, no? So, meaning lang nun, I will just transpose X to the other side, no? So, as I transpose it on the other side, I will have 90% minus X equals Y. Diba? Okay. Ay, but Y? X yan. Okay, so that's 90% minus X equals Y. Then, I can substitute it for the value of Y. Diba? Okay, so bago ko i-substitute yan, since dinecimal place ko yung aking yung aking fractional abundance, gagawin ko rin itong decimal, no? 0.9 minus X equals Y. I can use this, no, to substitute Y, di ba? Sabi natin, Y is equals to 0.9 minus X. So, I will plug it in, no? So, copy ko muna yung iba. Wait lang. Okay, so copy. Paste. Oops, napunta doon. Okay. So, yan, no? So, that's 25.9826 times. What is the value of Y now? No? We defined Y as 0.9 minus X. Saan ang galing yan? Dito sa fractional abundance, no? Then, what's next? We're going to distribute the coefficient doon sa binomial term sa loob, no? So, distribute natin yan doon sa loob, no? Okay, so, copy ko muna yung iba. Copy. Paste. Tinabad na talaga, no? Ayan, sure, sige. So, I will multiply 25 by 0.9. So, gagawin ko yan, 25,9826 times 0.9. So, the product is 23.38434. By the way, I'm going to copy all the digits as much as possible. No? And then 25.9826 times negative x. No? So, that will give me negative 25.9826x. Then what's left? Algebra na lang. You can combine similar terms. I will combine the x terms. And I will combine the non-x terms, itong mga numbers lang na yan. So, pag-add ko yan, no? So, 23.9850 minus 25.9826, that's negative 1.9976x. Okay? And for the black part, itong mga numbers lang, so that's 2.49858 plus 23.38434. 25.9, 8 pala. 292. Okay, so yan na. So I just simplified the terms, no? I combined all the x's, I combined all the numbers, so I came up with this number. Then what else now? So anong pwede ko gawin? I can transpose this to the other side, no? So that I will be left with just an x, no? Dito sa right side, no? So by transposing that, I will then subtract that by 24, no? So subtract ko na siya by 24. 88292. Yung ginagawa natin, algebra lang to, ha? Wala nang chemistry dito. Algebra na siya. So that's 24,305 minus 25,88292. That's negative, negative 1.57792 equal negative 1.9976x na. Finally, salamat sa Diyos, we can solve for x na, no? So to solve for x, all we have to do is just to divide the equations by the coefficient of x, no? So dividing both sides by negative 1.9976. So I will get the value of x being equal to 0.7899 or 78.99%. So yan, so I am able to solve for the value of x now. So if the value of x is 78.99, what is the value of y? Kasi di ba pinalitan natin si y? Okay. So to solve for y, or recall natin si y, so that's equal to 0.9 minus x, di ba? So y is equal to 0.9 minus 0.7899. That will be equal to 0.1101 or 11.01%. And now I have all the fractional abundances that I need now. So that means the fractional abundance of A is 78.99%. And for B, that's 10%, sabi sa problem. And for C, that's 11.01%. Okay, so that's my final answer. Pero, for the simplicity of our discussion, minimal lang yung ganitong examples natin. Because gusto natin yung mga easy to be understood na questions lang. But again, the more we answer harder tasks, the more na mahirap yung sinasagutan natin, the more na masasanay tayo sa mahihirap na items, Okay, so that's how you solve it, So I want you to take a screenshot and please don't get overwhelmed, Wala nang chemistry dyan, Ano na yan, math, Kasi yun nga, sir, yung problema, takot kami sa math, Okay lang yan, Okay lang yan. Makakaraos din tayo dyan, Okay. So maganda na rin itong brain teaser, Pampa-trickle ng brain, Pampakiliti ng brain, Ayan. At least nagising tayo, biglang may math, Siguro yung ibang nawala dito pagkabalik nila, uy, may math. Tapos, nag-live sila, Anyway. Okay, so do you have any questions po? Or any reactions? Or kaya pa naman ninyo? Kaya pa naman, no? Sige. None po. Sige. So, sir, meron pa ba kayong shortcut dyan, no? May calculator technique dito. Okay, so calculator technique. Kaya yung ano, di ba, tinuruan ko ng calculate technique. We can do this as well. We can use the calculator technique. Pero again, no, hindi mo ito-type yung buong problem doon. Ita-type mo doon ay equation. Okay, so how are we going to do the calcu technique, no? Yung shift solve technique na sinasabi natin last time. So in order for you to write, to solve this using the shortcut, no? Balikan natin itong part ng equation na to. Itong part na. Ayan. Ay. Para hindi na tayo mag-solve ng algebra, no? Balik tayo dyan sa equation na yan, no? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to plug in this equation into my calculator, no? So, sige. Pakita ko sa inyo yung calculator. Okay, so yan na si calculator. Then, ano yung gagawin natin? I'm going to plug in the equation in here, no? Okay, so yan. So that's 23. Actually, di ko kabisado eh. Teka lang. 24,305. So type ko 24.305. Then equal sign yung kasunod, di ba? So you press alpha, then equal sign yung naka-red. Isa ka ng alpha kid. Then ano pa yung sumunod dyan? 23,9850x, no? So that's 23.9, ano yun? Wala na naman. 9850x. 9850, then x, you press alpha, then you press the red x, no? Yan. Plus, yung next term, hindi ko kabisado, 249,858. 249,858. So that's 2.49858 plus, okay, so last term tayo, 25.9826. 25.9826 times 0.9 minus x, alpha x, close. Okay. So once you're able to type that in your calculator, ano ginagawa? Shift, solve. Solve for x. Ayun yung sinob natin last time. Hindi ko pa natanggal. Solving for x, I get this, 0.7899. Wow, shortcut. So that's the answer, no? So I am able to solve for x very easily with my shift solve. Sir, paano kapag walang shift solve? Magma-manual kayo. Ayan. So yan, that's the shortcut, no? You can apply shift solve to any questions as long as isang variable yung nawawala. Yan. So that's the shortcut. Okay. Okay, so with all those in mind, siguro I will ask you to solve for number 4. Basahin ko muna yung problem, no? Strontium has 4 isotopes. Etong isotope na to with this percentage abundance. Etong isotope na to with this percentage abundance. Ay ang isotope na yan with that percentage abundance and same as this one. So as you can see, for number 4, you have the atomic mass and the fractional abundance already for all the isotopes. So that means you're just going to solve for the average mass. No? Again, remember the formula for average mass is the sum of the fractional abundance times the isotope mass. Yan. So with that, siguro I will allow you to answer this now in 5 minutes. You take a screenshot, and after answering this, we will end the class na, no? So we can have our lunch. Sige, 5 minutes po. Ayan, sige. So, I think we can answer now, no? Asan yung camera? Okay. So, we can answer number 4 now. So, it's very simple since we are just asked to solve for the average mass. No? So, pag dito ako sa baba. So, number 4, average mass ang hinahanap, di ba? So, copy ko lang. Isotope mass, fractional abundance. I have 4 isotopes. So, sige. Buhayin natin yan. Ayan. So, I am 83, 9134, 56. 83.9134, 0.56%. Okay. 85, 90, 94, 986. 85, 90, 94, Nakalimutan ko. 9.86. Letter C, 86, 90, 89. Then 7%. And 87, 90, 56. 87, 90, 56. 82, 58%. Okay, so with that in mind, we can now solve for this now. So again, atomic mass is the sum of the product of fractional abundance and the IM. No? So what I can do na lang here is to extend this table. No? Extend ko na lang IM times FA. No? So yeah. So again, yung percentages, we will report that as decimals. No? So yeah. Just be careful. 839134 times 0.0056. Okay. And that's 85, 90, 94 times 0.0986, 86.90, 89, 0.07, and 87.9056 times 0.8258 now. So we can all plug in this into calculator now. We're just going to add all of this so we can get the average mass. Okay, so pindutin ko na lang sa CalView. Okay, so the final answer is 87.61664936. Or we can round this off to 2 decimal places na lang, no? Or 87.62. So that is the average atomic mass unit, no? For the number 4 question. Okay, so tama si Kevin, no? Okay, so I think that's all for today, no? So yun lang naman yung discussion natin today. For the next meeting, we will start with the electronic configuration. Just a brief review, no? We will not focus on that too much, no? Okay, so with all that in mind, do you have any questions or concerns? Oh, may question? None? Sige. Wala po. Sige po. So, salamat po for your participation. And yung quiz sa Canvas, andun na siya, no? Ayun. So, sige. I-end ko na yung recording and mag-outro na tayo. So, end recording. Okay. So, yung quiz